Right, hello wine drinking people. Time for more of what I've had to drink yesterday. And, you know, this is a saying that I say a lot. And this job just keeps getting better, man. Let me tell you, my friend Manny Gonzalez called me up, said, Andrew, I'm doing this killer Big 8 tasting of Bordeaux, which those of you that know what the Big 8 are, well, of course, it's the 5 first gross. You've got Lafite, you've got Latour, you've got Mouton, you've got Margaux and Aubryon from the left bank. And then you've got the 2 first gross of Saint-Emilion, Ozone and Cheval Blanc. What's the best wine in Pomerol? Everybody knows Chateau Petrus is the most highly sought after. But hey, I would say the Big 8 should have always been the Big 9 because we forgot about Chateau Yquem, which was classified originally as first of firsts. So thank you, Manny, for including Chateau Yquem in this group. And then just for the hell of it, we threw in the Chapoutier L'Hermite Blanc, like a 100-point wine from Chapoutier. And then, just add a little bit of excitement to the evening, he threw in a comparable like Ornellaia Massetto in with the Pomerols, Vega Sicilia Unico Reserve Especial, 97 Harlan Estate, 92 Maya. This was a Big 8 tasting to end all Big 8s. And then he said, well, hey, you got to include the new kids on the block, Angelus and Pavi. These guys just got elevated to the same status as Cheval Blanc. And hey, there's other wines in Pomerol that are just as expensive as Petrus, Lafleur, and Lepin. I mean, like I said, just a once-in-a-lifetime event. I cannot say enough how incredible this evening was. Oh, yeah, and I forgot, Le Mission Aubryon 89. So all the wines were served blind. I'm sorry, the 96 vintage of Dom Perignon and Dom Enotech was what we started with, which I picked out those 2 wines. I'm happy to say that, those were not hard. The Dom Perignon was a little quirked, the 96 Dom, but showed a little more evolution than the P2, which is a current release, which has been kept at the winery its whole life. So that one wasn't difficult, but the P2, I really love the complexity and the development in that wine. It is my favorite wine from Dom Perignon today in the 96 vintage. I think we have 96 or 98 in the store, but we have a bunch of it. The Yquem 1975. Wow, we didn't have this at our Yquem tasting, so, I mean, a great addition to the lineup as far as I was concerned, and perfect with the foie gras, a nice way to freshen the palate up, get it ready for all these big red wines. And this showed a lovely candied orange and honeyed butterscotch kind of note, creme flan, a little bit of that mushroom earthy character to it. Very thick and unctuous on the palate, though. This wine is really super rich and wonderful acidity, wonderful balance, most excellent juice. Wow. Killer. Juice was the Chapoutier L'Hermite Blanc, though. This wine, 100% Marsanne from 100-year-old vines. Really lovely fruit in this nose here, man. This is a 10-year-old wine, and it smells fresh like a current release, like it was 13 or 12 vintage, man. Quince fruit, lovely crushed rock kind of minerality, beeswax, white flowers, wonderful complexity on the tongue, incredibly rich, lemon curd, very thick. This Queen Snapper dish that they served, my favorite dish of the night. And just an amazing pairing as well. All of the food that came out was outstanding. The St. Regis, the new restaurant there, Burlock Cove or something, is outstanding, man. Really great. This was a killer wine. My favorite of the first flight of whites and sauternes, but both of those top-notch. All right, the first flight was blind, and I have to say I missed 2 wines in this flight, and the Massetto was served first. I looked at that wine, lighter in color, and I immediately said Massetto, and then proceeded to go through all the wines, confuse myself, and guess right on 2 of them. The Chateau Petrus being the one I guessed right at, and then the Lafleur, the last one, the Lepin and the Massetto. I messed up, and I have to say, after going through these wines, after I knew what they were, it was much easier to pick them out. The Petrus showed a bit of oxidative quality on the nose at first, but this wine really takes a long time to open up. And at the end of the night, I think we had a really good bottle. At first, I was questioning it, but this wine just rich and layered. The finish went on and on. Did get several votes for first place in the crowd. The Lepin, somewhat disappointing, though. For a wine that's $3,000 a bottle, I want more. This wine had lush plum and cherry fruit, some peppery notes, a little caramel, kind of a really exotic nose, but a bit light on the finish. Really, not what I would expect from one of the top dogs next to Petrus, which is still massive. The Lafleur, also a little disappointing to me. Little woodsy, peppery notes, dried herbs. These wines, a couple of them to me smelled like old. I mean, this 89 vintage, to me, we're doing another super Pomerol tasting. We're doing a flight of 89s because like I said, I want to say I wanted more from all of these 89s. The disappointing flight in the tasting, which let me say, if you could say you were disappointed in any of the flights here, it would be you're really splitting hairs. But this one, to me, my least favorite of all. The next flight, the Pessacs, Haut-Brion, Le Mission Haut-Brion, Dalaval Maya, Vega Sicilia Unico, and Chateau Margaux 1990. Wow. The 90 Margaux was my favorite wine in this flight. It showed that beautiful flower, kind of crushed flowers, red currants, gravelly, minerally notes like velvet on the tongue. This is a Margaux for the ages, still very youthful. And although it's drinking at its peak or near it right now, you could keep this wine another 20 years. Killer juice. I love the 90 vintage. The Haut-Brion and the Le Mission Haut-Brion, again, I didn't get a lot of fruit out of these wines, but what you got was that typical smoky character, like pipe tobacco, green olive in the Le Mission, and this one was a bit tannic still and need a little time to open up, but with the lamb, this wine was beautiful. That's another thing these old Bordeaux need is food. The 92 Maya, I mean, this was an easy flight to pick out. You put your nose in that wine, it smelled like port. Very different from the other wines, and a little menthol, blackberry, really youthful. This wine still a little monster, very rich and layered, most excellent juice. And like I said, the Haut-Brions had that smoky character. The Haut-Brion, the most disappointing wine in the flight, to me, a little beef jerky kind of character, maybe a bit oxidized, and still had some tannins to it. It wasn't corked, it wasn't bad, it just, like I said, I've had that wine before. It should have been the wine of the night or a contender for it, but the second flight, I redeemed myself and just went boom, 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 right down the list. These are the wines, and nailed every single one of them. All right, well, the Vega Sicilia Unico was easy because I knew Manny was going to throw that in there. You cannot have a tasting with Dr. Gonzalez without having a Vega, and the Reserve Especial came in second place of the night. Killer juice. The next flight had 86 Mouton. We just had that at our tasting last year with Mouton. We had 97 Harlan, which we showed at our Harlan events, 82 Latour, and 86 Lafite, which I just had all these wines. This should be easy too, right? A little bit harder. The Mouton and the Lafite, you know, I had to work for a little while to figure that out. But the Harlan, California sweet shit, really easy to pick out in this flight. It had that typical Oakville character to it, like milk chocolate, just beautiful. And then the Latour, which was, you know, Manny went around and asked everybody, what is your favorite wine of the night before we taste them? So we just had the 82 Latour at our Latour event, was wine of the night. We had the 82 at our big 82 tasting, was wine of the night. I guarantee if we get a good bottle of 82 Latour, it is going to be the wine of the night. And it was the wine of the night. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. This wine still a stunning array of red currant berry fruit, cigar box spice, smoke, truffles, graphite. I mean, a bit of a Band-Aid kind of medicinal character, but not off-putting. That adds to the complexity of old Bordeaux, not taking away from it. On the tongue, this wine's still very rich and more along the lines of a warm vintage. The 86s were given away by their tannins, a lot of tannin. Lafite has got a little bit more of a lighter, more floral character to it, and it's up on the Saint Estèphe border. What a lot of people don't know is a portion of their vineyards are actually in Saint Estèphe. They've been grandfathered in to call it a Pauillac. So a little bit un-Pauillac-like in that. And the Mouton, still a monster. This wine's still a baby. It needs a couple days to open up. That classic pencil lead and cedar character, a little bit backward, but an amazing flight. My favorite wine flight of the night. All of these wines. Killer, 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 killer. 4 killer scores in a row. And then the 2000 flight. These wines are babies, but let me tell you, man, this was not an easy flight to pick out. I have to say, I was not sure about my guesses here, but the Pave, I was pretty sure. Gerard Purse's wines are big, a lot of oak, and that's why they get big scores, like 100-point scores from Parker. And this wine was wine number 4 in the flight. It had a lovely toasty, oaky, mocha kind of character, the currant cassis fruit. Still a lot of tannins. Like I said, these wines were all babies. That one in the Ozone, the Ozone really had this liqueur-like quality to it. Very rich, the most decadent of all the wines, the first one. The Angelus and the Cheval Blanc, I mean, is it a toss-up? The Cheval Blanc had a little bit of that peppery character, green peppercorns and dark plum. So, I mean, like I said, I kind of guessed at the last two, but all 4 of those were right, and all of these wines outstanding. My favorite in this flight, the Ozone and the Pave, but the Cheval Blanc and the Angelus not far behind. I could tell you, one of the most amazing tastings I have ever attended. Thank you very much, Wine Wizards, for putting this on, and Dr. Manny Gonzalez. I'm your host, Andrew Lamposoni, signing off for the Wine Watch, saying, remember, always drink the good stuff first.